quite environmental and social friendly. However, this was the example that we found, and there's no similar example in Europe. Okay, now we came more or less to the pictures. The referendum campaign. Just to give you an idea what is needed for such a campaign over these 3 phases. We had 500,000 leaflets, 50,000 postcards, sent it out to people by post, 10,000 referendum posters in the streets. Of course, we had radio, cinema, and spots in the metro. Different mobilization spots on the internet, homepage, Facebook, Twitter, around 50 press releases and 350 press articles. This is only the last phase, and regular information stalls. And only for the referendum campaign there was a budget of 190,000 euro. This is also another stuff. To carry out such a campaign, fundraising is quite important. However, it was not a big problem there. Because, well, 1/3 of the money we fundraised from the coalition, 1/3 we fundraised it from foundations who gave us money, and 1/3 we really collected with the people. And there were a lot of people willing to give us €5, €10, €20. And if you have a really large number of these people giving you these small money, you know, you have found the right topic at the right time. So now these are the photos. How does these posters look like? You can see we have these big posters. And the smaller one, we have chosen our Berlin beer, just to have some kind of also recognizable mascots. Well, of course, some street action, something like that, the usual stuff that you do for any campaign. Small information stalls, easily to make, but it's quite important. And I think this is really important thing of such a campaign, that you have so many contacts with people, that you talk with the people, and you have to learn how to, well, for more or less, how can you such a complicated topic like the remunicipalization of energy supply, and I can tell you in German the words aren't easier, to tell people an easy story. What does this mean for you? What is your aspect? What is your gain? What you can win if you support us? And you get a lot of feedback. You've got a lot of open questions that you can try to answer. And yeah, maybe this is just to carry out this campaign really broad in the whole society. Then we do this stuff with chalk on the ground. And yeah, this is the result. I already said before, the referendum we have won with 83% yes votes, but however, it wasn't sufficient. We have nearly, you can see the numbers, 599,320. We needed 20,000 more, but just to give you an idea of what does 600,000 yes vote means in Berlin. If you have a look at the federal state parliament and look at the fractions, the biggest fraction is the Social Democratic Party here in red. At the last election they got 400,000 yes votes, more or less yes votes. The Conservative Party 340,000. We had nearly 60,000. If we would have participated in this election, we would have gained these numbers of votes, we would have 45% of the seats in parliament. Normally with this needed 620,000 of needed votes, you could make a coalition parliament and beyond the government. You see how high the hurdle is. And this was the problem. Our whole campaign was that way created that our referendum could be held at the same day as the federal parliament election of Germany in September last year. However, the decision about the date of the referendum is made by the federal state government. And of course they didn't have any interest in linking us with this election, because this would mean But if you have this linked with an election, then the 620,000 is not the problem. We see this from other examples. We had a similar twin campaign in Hamburg. They were able to decide that they want to have this election day also for the referendum election, and the numbers of people participating in the federal state election and in the referendum were more or less the same. So this was, of course, a political tactic just to move us as far as possible away from the election. Otherwise, we would have won this, of course. However, 600,000 yes votes is a big message, and this is why something has happened. And this is also, of course, this was the key thing. The core of our campaign was this referendum. However, it was clear enough that it is not everything. Not everything is linked to the success of this referendum. It was for us important to have as many votes on our side as possible. And with 600,000, something has happened, and I came to my last point. What happened after the referendum? No, one thing happened before the referendum. Of course, tactical. 10 days before the referendum, the coalition in Berlin decided to establish a municipal energy utility in order to tell the people that they were doing all the stuff that we were asking for in the referendum, 10 days before the referendum. However, this energy utility is far away from what we were thinking of. And this is why we call it bonsai utility, because it's as small and has so many restrictions that it can't work really as a utility. However, structure is now made, and of course this bonsai utility can be transformed within the next years to a real utility. With all the stuff we were asking for, especially the ecological point of view, we think there are big chances that will be realized. Also the social aspects are getting more and more involved in the discussion. Of course, the democratic control, we have lost 100%. Then the other thing is the decision on the electricity grid is still not made. So we can influence also this decision-making process, always referring on 600,000 people that want to have the energy grid back in Berlin hands. And another thing is that the gas distribution network was remunicipalized. We excluded the gas distribution network from our referendum due to legal aspects, because the contract ended 1 year before, and due to legal aspect, we weren't allowed to introduce that. However, also the remunicipalization of the gas distribution network is just the first important indicator that this federal state government is willing to remunicipalize energy grids. So, last slide. What are the means? Of course, we work on. The time window is still open. There are different levels we can work on. We can work on the political level. There's a committee established within the parliament dealing with the future energy supply that we were involved, where we can talk and introduce our ideas on a parliament level. And of course, we are doing all this lobbying stuff that you usually do with political parties, with introducing statements, etc. And of course, we're still a social movement. We do, of course, our PR press releases, web pages, hearings, all the usual stuff, and of course, still street protest is still going on. So we are not that powerful as we were before the referendum, because, well, the referendum is something that you have in your hand, where there's still something to do, and we're still alive, and we think slowly we can change also the energy supply towards a public-owned, ecological, social and democratic controlled energy supply. So that was it so far from my side. Yes, most of the time is quite good.
Thank you, Stefan, for your talk. So this is the time. Is there any question? So I'll start. I was thinking about I think it was the 17% who voted no in the referendum. Do you have any idea what arguments they gave? Why did they vote for no?
Well, it's interesting. We carried out an survey afterwards, made by one of these famous survey companies. Why people? We had an exit poll made by the University of Berlin, the technical university, on the day of the referendum. So we had indicators why people voted yes, and however we were also interested why people voted no. And there it came out that a high percentage voted no because they were convinced that the federal state government had already done everything that we were asking for. This was the crucial thing, was the 10 days ahead of referendum day to establish this municipality utility. Maybe this lost. This was quite somehow important. However, there are several other indicators like how Vattenfall behaved during the campaign. Usually they were quite very helpful. They carried out a lot of newspaper advertisements that were all more or less positive for us, because, well, they spent one day for advertising in newspapers which we couldn't spend for the whole campaign. However, this was better for us because people didn't like Vattenfall so much, and this is more counteractive. And we know that within the last 2 years, Vattenfall stopped this campaign of advertisement. And maybe we would have carried out on advertising for them. Maybe this was the 20,000 missing one. However, if you come so close, you can't say why these 20,000 were missing. But coming back to the 17,000, most of them, really were convinced that everything was still done by the government. And just to add why people voted yes, this was also quite interesting because we thought, especially in Berlin, where we know that we have a high effectiveness to renewable energy. We have the highest rate in Germany of people buying renewable energy. However,